Hello, writers, and welcome back to Spooky Writes. My name's Kemal Onor, and if this is your first time, please consider subscribing. I publish videos Monday and Friday and put out shorts somewhere between those. So make sure you give this video a good thumbs up, make sure you hit subscribe, and ring that notification bell. So today's topic is going to be all about how to take your writing seriously. So let's head into the storm. Okay, right. So a lot of people will talk a big game about writing. They'll talk about their brilliant idea. They might even talk about how they're working on a novel and it's going to make them millions of dollars, how they're working on this big idea, this big project, and they'll talk about this big game. But the problem is, are they serious about this? Are they serious about this writing project of theirs? And so I have a question to ask you, dear viewer. Are you taking your writing seriously? And if you're not, how come? Because there are a lot of mistakes and ways that you talk about, there are a lot of mistakes and ways that you talk about your writing that will reveal to people and reveal to other writers that you might not be as serious about pursuing this craft as you believe you are. So know that these are ways that you might be misrepresenting yourself as an author. These might be ways that you might be talking about your work in a way that suggests that you are not quite as knowledgeable about the topic that you are writing about. And these are things that I made these mistakes as well, even coming out of a master's program. Even though I studied writing in undergrad as well as in my MFA program, I spent 7 years studying the craft of writing. And even coming out of my final class, I still made some of these mistakes. So I'm sharing these mistakes with you to help you speed up that progress of becoming a serious writer and taking your writing seriously. And the sooner you take your writing seriously, the more you're going to improve, the better your writing is going to be. So first off, we have to talk about your expectations, because so many people who say they want to be an author and want to be a writer have this rose-colored vision of what it is to be an author. They think writing is easy and it just requires time. If you just have the time and the ability to sit down, you will be able to turn out a publishable novel. And a lot of people have these false expectations and these false ideas that writing should be easy and that writing is easy, and that just because you speak your native language, you are capable of turning out a book that is worthy of publishing and that you'll make millions of dollars. So you have to realize that your expectations might be out of alignment with what the reality is of the publishing world and what the publishing market looks like. Because you have to understand that no matter how good your idea is, if you expect, oh, my idea is $1 million idea, it's going to appeal to everyone. Everyone's going to want to read this work because it's a brilliant idea that I came up with. And this is an expectation that a lot of beginning writers, a lot of people who want to get into writing might say that, oh, I have this $1 million idea. It's going to appeal to everyone. It's going to appeal to people who are 65. It's going to appeal to young adult readers. And you need to understand that this is not reality. No book is going to appeal to every person out there. That's why there's so many different authors. That's why there's so many different voices, because different authors will appeal to different demographics. Different stories will appeal to different readers, and readers crave different voices, and readers crave variety in what they read. And so you have to understand that you can't expect to have, especially if you're a first-time novelist, don't go into expecting you're going to make $1 million off your first book. So you have to understand that the way that you're coming into this pursuit of writing, this pursuit of becoming an author, you have to have realistic expectations to who your writing is going to appeal to. And so I've done a video all about talking about genre. You have to find your niche. You have to figure out who are you actually writing for and what is that audience? Who is your ideal audience for the story, for the novel that you're writing? Who is it going to appeal to? Is it going to appeal to Midwest moms, or is it going to appeal to people in their 30s who are working, young professionals? Is it going to appeal to young adult readers? You have to really define what your niche is and who your audience is. And another really important thing that you have to understand as a way of taking yourself seriously as an author, as a way of presenting yourself as someone who is dedicated to the craft of writing, is this idea that you have to be able to talk about writing. You have to be able to identify what is working in a story. What you have to go beyond the what people will say of, oh, I liked it, or oh, I didn't like it. You have to go beyond the I liked it or I didn't like it. You have to identify. And this is why when you do enough reading, the more reading that you do, the more you'll start to see sort of the scaffolding behind the work. And it's very difficult to get immersed in a story, because the moment that you become immersed in a story, you have to stop and ask yourself, what is the author doing here that's making me fall into the fictive dream, that's making me lose sense of time? What is the author doing here that is resonating with me? And so this is the way that you have to read as an author. You have to read like an author, and you shouldn't go into saying I want to be a writer if you're like I hate reading, because you have to read a lot. And I say this in every video: read a lot, write a lot. Those are the two big things that you have to do over and over again to be successful as an author, to improve as an author. And so you have to understand how to talk about writing. You have to understand how to identify what is working in a novel, what is working in a short story, at the scene level, in the minute level. You have to be able to talk about the relationships between characters instead of saying, oh, they're in love. Talk about the dynamics of that relationship, and you have to delve deeper. You have to go beyond surface level about talking about literature. It's not a matter of simply saying, oh, well, the curtains were blue, which represents sadness. It represents this character's depression. You have to go beyond that. You have to be able to talk about literature in a way that is interesting and evokes more than simple surface level details. Another big way that I can tell if a writer is serious or not is if someone comes to me and says, I have a novel and it's 110 pages long, or I have a novel and it's 200, I have a 200-page novel that I've written. You need to stop talking about your novel length in terms of pages and start talking about it using word count, because page count is very arbitrary, based off of formatting, based off of what the publisher wants to do with your work. So word count is solid, word count is tangible, whereas page count is arbitrary. And page count word count only matters to publishers and writers. So you have to talk about your piece in terms of writing count, and you have to understand the different parameters of different styles of writing. If you're writing a short story, what's the difference between writing a 10,000 word short story and that of a novella? And you have to understand that there are different length requirements for different genres. If you're writing a romance novel, it's going to be shorter than that of an epic fantasy novel. If you're writing an adult novel, you're going to have a larger word count than that of a young adult novel. And you have to understand that. So you have to stop talking about your novel in the sense of pages and start talking about your writing in terms of word count. And you have to understand that for short stories, you round off to the nearest 100 word count. And for novels, it's typically around the 500 word count or the 1,000 word count, depending on what the publisher asks for. And so in order to take yourself seriously as an author, you have to understand that different publishers want different things, and you have to read publishing guidelines, because every publisher is going to be slightly different. Not every publisher is going to want to have a submission of a horror novel. Not every publisher publishes romance. Not every publisher publishes epic fantasy or sci-fi. They all have their own unique taste in what they publish and what they put out. And you have to understand this, and you have to be able to find those publishers that publish the work that you are trying to get out there, the type of work that you are writing, and understand again that your writing is not going to be for everyone. So take yourself seriously by talking about your writing in terms of word count, and make sure that you know what genre requires for your word count. Again, if you're writing epic fantasy, a 40,000 word epic fantasy novel is probably not going to be long enough, whereas a 40,000 word young adult novel would probably be within the parameters of what would be considered a full-length young adult novel, and understand that there are different guidelines for different genres, and you have to understand that word count is so important, because word count is solid, it's tangible, you should never present your work in terms of, oh, my novel is I wrote a 110-page novel, I wrote a 13-page short story. None of that matters. You have to talk about your writing in terms of word count to be taken seriously as an author. All right, and so the last big thing that shows that you are not taking yourself seriously as a writer is not understanding formatting. If you don't understand what standard manuscript formatting is, you have to understand what I would highly recommend you look up what standard manuscript formatting is, because this is typically what the majority of publishers expect you to be submitting to them. They don't want you to submit a novel. They don't want you to submit your manuscript in anything outside of standard manuscript format, unless they specifically ask for something outside of SMS, standard manuscript formatting, and they will specify within their guidelines. So if you're submitting work that is outside of what the guidelines call for, you're not taking yourself seriously as an author. You need to you have to understand the format of your novel. No one wants to read a poorly formatted manuscript. No one wants to read a manuscript that has size 16 font and is in wingdings. No one wants to read a novel or a manuscript in outside formats. And editors are very choosy, and they know that if you don't have the time and you don't take the courtesy to at a bare minimum read the submission guidelines, why should they bother reading your manuscript? So take yourself seriously as an author by understanding standard manuscript formatting and understanding that submission guidelines are there for a reason. These are all steps to taking yourself more seriously as an author. And hopefully this was helpful. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit like, subscribe, make sure to comment below. Let me know what have you done to try and take yourself more seriously as an author, to show yourself as a serious writer who's dedicated to this craft of writing and submitting your work and putting yourself out there. So with that said, thank you so much, and keep it spooky. And then, of course, here's your writing bonus for sticking all the way to the end. Jonathan rode the elevator down to the bottom floor. The doors opened, and before him was blank. So set your timer and start writing. Thank you so much.